Hello, Sudoku friends, and welcome to a New York Times Hard Sudoku. Today is December 6, 2022. This puzzle has some very interesting logic, and I thought I would share it with you. I solved this puzzle this morning, but it wasn't as easy as I initially thought that it would be, and that's why I want to share it. First, let's get the easy stuff out of the way, and the one here and the one here, of course, in combination with this one, puts a 1 in this cell. Nothing magical about that. We got an 8 in row 5 and 6. We need to find a home for an 8 in this row here. And the only place it can go is here because these 6 cells are all blocked by these two 8s, of course. Now one of these two cells will have to be an 8. I'm making a note of the 3 here and the 3 here, putting a 3 in one of these two cells, and therefore in one of these two cells. The 7 here and the 7 here block these cells here. That means that a 7 for row 9 will have to go either here or here, and therefore for this row here, one of these two cells will have to be a 7. And also, the 6 and the 8 here puts a 6 and an 8 in these three cells, and therefore 6 and 8 in these three cells as well. The 1 and the 9 need to find homes in these cells here because there's no other place for them to go in this column 7. And actually, I think that the 9 will need to go here because this 9 blocks these three cells. Therefore, a 9 for this block must go in one of these three cells. And therefore, a 9 cannot go in this cell. A 9 also cannot go in this cell because of this 9. So this is the only place a 9 can go, in this column and in this box and in this row. So actually, having found the 6 and the 8 for these three cells, this 1 now here, and we know that this 1 will have to go either here or here. We now found this third digit for these three cells, and that's got to be a 1. Since we now have a 1 and an 8 in the top row, this cell has got to be a 6. And that means that these three cells cannot, of course, be a 6, 1, and an 8. Therefore, there must be a 2, 4, and a 9. There's a 4 and a 2 already in this row, so this cell now must be a 9. And these two cells have to be a 2 and a 4. And that gives us a 3, 5, and 7 for this cell, and this cell. And I believe that I can resolve the 2 for this block. Let's see, this 2 here blocks these cells. Therefore, because of the 2 up here, this cell must be a 2 or this cell must be a 2. Whichever cell is going to be, in combination with the 2 here, we now know that one of these two cells will have to be a 2. Okay? And that means that in addition to the 6 and an 8 that are going to go in two of these three columns, the third digit will have to be a 2 because this cannot be a 2 and this cannot be a 2. And we still need to find a 2 for this column. So these three cells have to be a 2, 6, and an 8. Now, these two cells have to be a 1 and a 4. And that means that one of these two cells will have to be a 4 because now we have a ghost 4 here blocking these three cells, and we have a 4 here blocking these three cells. So one of these two cells must be a 4, and because of the 4 here now, one of these two cells will have to be a 4. Don't despair. I'm just talking to myself, and I'm doing this because I'm familiarizing myself with the puzzle. And look at this little gem. We need to find 2, 4, 7, and a 9 for the top row, don't we? Now this cell is a 2 or a 4 because we already have a 7 and a 9 in the box. And look at the 7, 9 here. This also cannot be a 7 or a 9. So now this cell and this cell have to be 7 and 9, and these two cells have to be a 2 and a 4, except this cell here cannot be a 4, can it? Because we have a 4 already present in this box. So this is a 2, and this is a 4. And now this cell, of course, must be a 2. Remember that these cells have to be a 1 and an 8, right? So this leaves this cell open for a 2. And remember when we said that one of these two cells would have to be a 2? Now we know which one is going to be, namely this one. And of course, now one of these two will have to be a 3. Let's see if we can get any closer. For column 9, we have got a 1-8 pair here. In addition to this pair, we still need to find a 3, 4, 5, and a 7. 3, 4, 5, and a 7. There's a 7 and a 4 here, and that would make this a 3 or a 5, except we already know that one of these cells must be a 3, don't we? Therefore, this must be a 5. And having found this 5, and looking at the 5 here, we now know that this cell must be a 5. And these two cells now have to be a 3 and a 7. So if one of these cells is a 7, and we got a 7 here, and we got a 7 here, that puts a 7 firmly in this cell, doesn't it? And now this cell can only be a 3. And the 3 here blocks these cells. The 3 up here blocks these cells, making this a 3. And remember how we said that these three cells have to be a 2, 6, and an 8? Then, of course, this one must be a 4. We can do something about the 4, 6, and a 7 still missing in these three cells because we've got a 4 here and a 7 here. So that would make this a 6, wouldn't it? I nearly overlooked an 8, which goes in this cell here because of this 8 up here. And this 8 blocking these cells, and this 8 here blocks these cells, so this is an 8. That, of course, puts an 8 in this cell, doesn't it? And then this, of course, cannot be a 6, it's a 2, and this is now a 6. So we've got a 6 here or here. The 5 and a 7 here block these two cells, and therefore these two must be a 5 and a 7. And a ghost 7 here blocking these two cells, and the 7 here blocking these three cells puts a 7 in one of these two cells, and therefore a 7 in one of these two cells. We need to find a 4, 5, and a 7 to fill these three cells. There's a 7 already in this block, therefore this must be a 7. And by the way, this is a 5. According to earlier discussion, look at the 5 here blocking these cells, right? So that leaves a 4 and a 5 for these two cells. And these three cells now have to be a 2, 3, and a 9. We got a 2 here and a 9 here blocking this cell, therefore this is a 3. And this is now a 2, 9, and this is a 2, 9, except this cannot be a 2 because of the 2 already present in the column. So this is a 9, and this is a 2. Now we got a 9 here, and we got a 9 here, we got a 9 here, putting a 9 in this cell here. And therefore, in this cell up here, this now must be a 7. Remember the 7 and the 9? Those were the last two digits we needed for the top row. And we also remember, I'm sure, that these two cells had to be a 4 and a 7. Now this cell cannot be a 7 anymore due to the 7 up here. This now becomes a 4, and this is a 7. And we had a 4, 5 going on here, didn't we? The 4 now here puts a 5 in this cell and the 4 in this. The 5 here blocks these cells. The 5 here blocks these cells, and therefore 5 must go here. The last cell here needs to be a 1, of course, and that takes care of the 1, 4 we had here. This is now a 1, and this is a 4. These are still a 3 and a 7, and this is still a 1 and an 8. These, of course, have to be a 1 and a 6, and these two must be a 3 and a 5. I almost forgot that these two have to be a 2 and a 9, and there's a 9 now up here in the corner, making this a 2 and this a 9. And now the 9 here, and this 9 forces a 9 in this cell, and the 2 here and the 2 here. This 2 puts the 2 in this cell like so. And I think we are very close to solving this Sudoku. The remaining two cells in column 2 have to be a 6 and a 7. A 7 can't go here because of this 7. Therefore, this is a 6 and this is now a 7. The remaining 3 cells here have to be a 4, 5, and a 6. Because of the 6 here, of course, this cell must be a 6. And now these two cells must be a 4 and a 5. 4 here blocks this cell, so that is a 5. This is now a 4. And the 5 here puts a 5 in this cell. This last cell here is going to be a 3, putting a 3 in this cell. And this is now going to be a 7. These two remaining cells have to be a 6 and a 1. This is also a 6 and a 1, and therefore this cannot be a 6 and a 1. And the last of the 3 digits that we need for these 3 empty cells is going to be a 3. Therefore, this is a 3. Now the 3 here and the 3 here puts the 3 in this cell here. This cell now needs to be a 7. These two must be an 8 and a 4. There's a 4 already in this row. So this is an 8 and this is a 4. This an 8 and this the 1 that we knew would have to go in one of these cells, and that makes this a 1, and this is now a 6, and finally we found the 6 and the 1 for down here. I thought I wanted to share this puzzle with you because it had some quite interesting logic, I think. And if you're not used to solving puzzles without pencil marks, you might have needed some to figure this one out. In any event, I hope that you enjoyed it and that you will come back for more. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, would you mind subscribing if you want to see more puzzles coming your way? Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.